New research into increased hunger following blood sugar crashes. Hey, I'm Andrea Nicholson, holistic nutritionist specializing in helping women restore metabolic health through insulin sensitivity, gut health, and detoxification pathways. And in today's video, I want to share some telling new research on hunger as it relates to blood sugar crashes. This study was published in the journal Nature Metabolism in April of 2021. And this study, they followed more than 1,000 people in the US and the UK for 2 weeks who were wearing continuous glucose monitors. Now, if you're not familiar with continuous glucose monitors, or CGMs, they're a small device that's often worn on the arm that continuously monitors blood sugars. These are often worn by type 1 diabetics who need careful regulation of blood sugars and insulin levels. But they're becoming more popular amongst health enthusiasts, functional medicine practitioners, and people with blood sugar dysregulations. In this study, they asked the participants to continue consuming their normal diets, occasionally adding in a standardized meal that each participant also consumed. These CGMs monitored their blood sugars before, during, and after meals, as well as all day long. And then the participants also tracked how hungry they felt, what foods they were eating, and how much they were eating throughout the day. The results were clear. The larger the blood sugar spike after a meal, the larger the blood sugar dip after the meal. And if the dip went lower than baseline from before the meal, the participants reported the greatest hunger. This also led to participants eating more after that drop. Now, this is great news because we have control over how large those spikes and drops are based on what we eat. Large spikes in blood sugar are caused by consumption of simple sugars or high carbohydrate containing foods. The body then has to compensate for that influx of sugar in the blood, and this causes an overcorrection and the subsequent drop too far. Researchers could actually predict in this study what participants would report about their hunger based on how significant their spikes and drops were. Now, hunger, appetite, and cravings are part of a larger, complex ecosystem that's not solely driven by blood sugar, but it's also controlled by hormones, genetics, age, activity levels, stress levels, and even sleep quality. This study looked at one major factor that we have control over. We don't have control over most of those factors, but we do have control over what we eat. And they concluded that when blood sugar is managed well, avoiding those large spikes and drops, hunger and appetite were much easier to maintain. So how do you maintain smaller blood sugar swings? Number one, cutting carbohydrates, especially simple carbohydrates and the highest glycemic foods. The average person is consuming 200 to 300 grams of carbohydrates a day, much of which are refined. But if you can cut that down to less than 100 from whole quality sources of carbohydrates, your blood sugar swings will be much better managed. Number two, prioritize protein, especially whole sources of quality proteins. So this again is going to be healthy, whole, organic if possible, grass-fed if possible, animal proteins, including eggs and meat and wild-caught fish, as well as quality dairy and, of course, quality plant proteins as well. Not so much protein powders and shakes and bars and refined sources of proteins. And number three, fill the rest with healthy fats, especially, again, those healthy sources of whole food-based fats. So again, this is going to be quality animal sources of fats from those quality meats or quality dairy, as well as the wild-caught fish, and then avocados and avocado oil, coconut products, and even olive oil and olives. So there you have it, how blood sugar swings can increase appetite and hunger.